Back in 2012, this film literally turned the horror genre on its head. It completely defied expectations and still delivered a spine-tingling experience like no other. But what makes Cabin in the Woods truly remarkable? It's not just another run-of-the-mill horror flick, it's a game changer that deconstructs the very essence of terror. Beneath the surface of this seemingly straightforward tale of 5 friends heading into the woods for a weekend getaway lies a web of secrets, a clandestine organisation, and a horrifying truth that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about horror. So join me in this video as I dissect Cabin in the Woods, peeling back its layers, exploring its narrative, and looking at how it redefined the horror genre. Let's get into it. This film takes familiar conventions and flips them on their head, in a way that will leave even the most seasoned horror enthusiasts in awe. At first glance, the Cabin in the Woods may seem like your typical horror setup, a group of friends embarking on a weekend getaway to a remote cabin in the woods, but that's precisely where the film's brilliance lies, in its ability to use these cliches as a foundation for something entirely unexpected. You see, horror movies very normally follow a particular type of formula. You have the jock, the nerd, the promiscuous one, the final girl, and usually the stoner. These characters are essentially archetypes that have become the staple of the genre. The Cabin in the Woods introduces us to a group of friends who fit these archetypes perfectly. It's almost as if they were chosen to fulfill predetermined roles in a horror story. But as the film progresses, we realise that there's more to their characters than meets the eye. The film challenges these stereotypes, turning them into complex, multi-dimensional characters who react to their terrifying circumstances in ways that defy expectations.
This isn't right. We should split up.
Yeah, good idea.
Really?
It's a clever commentary on the predictability of horror movies and the audience's demand for the same old tropes. Cabin in the Woods doesn't stop at character deconstruction, it also takes aim at classic horror scenarios. Remember that scene where a character investigates a strange noise in the basement, armed with nothing but a flashlight? It's a trope that we've seen countless times before. But in this film, that very scenario becomes a satirical and self-aware moment. It's as if the characters are aware of the horror movie rules they're supposed to follow, and they knowingly play into them, much to our amusement and horror. The film masterfully blurs the line between horror and comedy, using its self-awareness to subvert our expectations at every turn. It's a film that knows the genre inside out and gleefully deconstructs it for our entertainment. So next time you watch Cabin in the Woods, make sure you pay close attention to how it dismantles these common tropes of horror storytelling. It's a very refreshing take on a well-trodden path, but it's just the start of the secrets that this movie has to unveil. Now that we've explored how the Cabin in the Woods deconstructs horror tropes, let's turn our attention to one of the most intriguing and enigmatic aspects of the film, the mysterious organisation pulling the strings behind the scenes. As our unsuspecting protagonists venture deeper into their nightmare, they stumble upon a revelation that goes beyond the confines of the cabin. What they discover is a highly sophisticated and clandestine operation that orchestrates their every move. The organisation, which remains unnamed throughout the film, is responsible for engineering the horrors that befall our protagonists. Their control room is a labyrinth nexus of surveillance, filled with technicians and scientists monitoring the unfolding nightmare. But what's the motivation behind this elaborate orchestration of terror? The organisation's chilling purpose is revealed as we witness them discussing the sacrifices, a ritualistic event that requires selected characters to meet gruesome ends. What makes this organisation all the more unsettling is their use of a vast array of monstrous creatures, each one more horrifying than the last. These creatures were selected from an extensive list, ranging from zombies and werewolves to vengeful spirits and ancient gods. As the characters encounter these monstrosities, it becomes apparent that their fates have been meticulously planned and tailored to fit specific horror subgenres. It's as if the organisation is playing a sinister game, manipulating the rules of horror to appease their dark purpose. One of the most chilling moments in this film is when a character stumbles upon the organisation's archives, revealing a history of past sacrifices and the horrors that have been unleashed in the name of appeasing ancient, malevolent entities. And then there's the enigmatic leader of the organisation, played by the iconic Sigourney Weaver. Her presence alone adds an extra layer of intrigue as she attempts to explain the necessity of these horrifying rituals. But as the film hurtles towards its climax, our protagonists must confront the organisation and their own rules in this nightmarish ordeal. It's a showdown that challenges the very fabric of horror storytelling. The Cabin in the Woods isn't just a film that subverts horror conventions, it's a thought-provoking exploration of human nature's darker aspects, wrapped in a cloak of terror and mystery. The organisation remains a haunting enigma that leaves us with more questions than it does answers. Now that I've, scratched the surface on this mysterious organisation, let's talk a little bit more about the monstrous horrors that live down below. As our ill-fated characters unwittingly unleash their nightmare, they soon discover that the cabin is not just a haven for horror cliches, but a gateway to a nightmarish menagerie of monsters. The film presents us with a staggering variety of creatures and entities, each more grotesque and terrifying than the last. From the sadistic family of redneck zombies to the horrifically disfigured deities reminiscent of classic horror, Cabin in the Woods throws everything but the kitchen sink at our unsuspecting victims. Who could forget the memorable and grotesque encounter with the Merman, a seemingly harmless and absurd creature that becomes the source of gruesome and unexpected horror? And then there's Fornicus, Lord of Bondage and Pain, a terrifying homage to the Hellraiser franchise, which takes pleasure in tormenting its victims in the most sadistic ways imaginable. The list goes on, with a giant snake, ancient deities demanding sacrifices, and a myriad of other horrors that are all part of the organization's grand design. Each monster represents a different subgenre of horror, and their inclusion in the ritual underscores the film's clever commentary on the horror industry's formulaic nature. But what's most disturbing is the idea that these abominations exist solely for the purpose of tormenting and killing the young, unsuspecting victims, all in the name of satisfying the organization's sinister agenda. The Cabin in the Woods introduces us to a world where nightmares are not limited to one specific threat, but encompass a multitude of horrors. It forces us to question the morality of sacrificing lives for the sake of tradition, and the real depths of human cruelty hidden beneath our everyday lives. One of the most evident ways that Cabin in the Woods has impacted the horror genre is through its clever deconstruction of horror tropes. Filmmakers and writers have taken note, leading to a weave of self-aware and meta-horror films that challenge traditional conventions. Films like Cabin Fever and The Final Girls have embraced the idea of poking fun at genre cliches while still delivering genuinely terrifying experiences. Well, maybe not so much terrifying in these, they're kind of just funny, but they all pay homage to the classics that came before them. Even in the realm of television, TV shows like American Horror Story and Stranger Things have incorporated elements of self-awareness and subversion, drawing inspiration from the success of Cabin in the Woods. Many horror creators and writers have openly acknowledged the impact of the Cabin in the Woods on their work, praising its ability to reinvent the genre and keep it fresh and relevant. In short, the Cabin in the Woods has sparked a creative renaissance within the horror genre. It challenged the status quo, reminding us that horror can be both terrifying and thought-provoking, all while poking fun at its own traditions. As we continue to explore the depths of horror cinema, we mustn't forget the trailblazing impact of this movie. It's a film that dared to be different and has left a legacy on the genre we know and love. Now, I know this film is like 10 years old, or maybe even more, but it's genuinely one of my favourite horror movies. I remember just being so shocked when this film first came out. I just didn't see what happened coming at all. So it's been a lot of fun talking about this today. If this is something you enjoyed, then please let me know, of course, in the comments down below. Also, if you'd like to see me go back and review some old classic horror movies, then let me know, because that's something I've been thinking about doing, like more in-depth breakdowns and reviews, going back and picking out some old classic slasher horror movies like The Burning or Black Christmas, things like that, and then some lesser known ones too, and giving my thoughts on them today. If that's something you'd like to see me do, then let me know. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing. Again, we're a brand new channel and could really use the support. I hope you enjoyed, hope you have a great day, and remember, stay scared, dead scared.